Hey guys, welcome back to Maelstrom Gaming Studios. I'm Craig, and today we're going to talk about the best list of August. So we have once again compiled, we have 6 lists this time, a couple from different detachments, and we're going to talk about which ones we're doing well. Now, we don't have any true event winners in today's list. However, we do have a lot of great lists that were one defeat, so they finished in, the top 5 or something like that. Still good to look at, see how the meta shifts. I know this meta recently with the changes or the buffs to, and now nerfs, to Death Guard, Chaos Knights, and Imperial Knights, it was not a great meta to be playing Tyranids in. Those armies can be very difficult for Tyranids unless you spec into them, and if you did really spec into those guys, then a lot of the other armies would hurt you pretty bad as well. So, we'll see what today's list brings. Before we do, I just want to remind you guys to like and subscribe to stay updated on all of our content here at Maelstrom Gaming Studios. We cover a lot of Tyranid tactics, stuff like this. Battle reports, we've got an awesome one coming out on Monday, so stay tuned to that. And we'll also do live streams, of course. Stay tuned to the end of this month, the last Monday of the month. We are doing our 100th battle report live. It's going to be a fun Tyranid list, a fun game, probably a quicker game, but a fun time. We're just going to hang out and celebrate doing 100 battle reports here on YouTube. So with all that out of the way, let's dive into today's video. So as we always do with this series, we start with Vanguard Onslaught, and we have Sebastian Jeffrian. He got second at the Nightwolves Major 40k. There were 30 players. He went 4-1. His opponents were Tau, Tyranids, Sisters of Battle, Orcs was his loss, and Death Guard. In his list, he had the Death Leaper as his warlord. He had 3 Broodlords, 2 hyper-adapted Ravener squads, a winged Hive Tyrant with hunting grounds, and a winged Tyranid Prime with the Stalker enhancement. Battleline, just 10 Hormagaunts, great for doing little actions, screening, being a sacrificial unit when you need to. The rest of the list, he had a Biovore, 3 units of 5 Gene Stealers. This is something we've been starting to see a bit lately. A Lictor, 2 Neurolictors, 3 units of Raveners, and a unit of melee warriors. So like I said, we've been seeing this shift a little bit in some of the well-performing Vanguard Onslaught lists, is to, in order to make room for the ton of points, you need to add in hyper-adaptive Raveners, especially 2 of them plus 2 groups of 5 regular Raveners. People have been shaving off their warrior or their Gene Stealer squads to be units of 5. Still having the Broodlord, because the Broodlord does do a good amount of the punch, especially when it's trying to trade up. That Broodlord is really what does the damage. And these little units are great for sending out, again, being that initial trade onto an objective, screening out other opponents, scouts, and just being able to do a decent amount of trade for an okay price point. The real bulk of the damage is going to be done by those hyper-adaptive Raveners because they can hit like an absolute truck, especially in this detachment. As well as you've got 6 melee warriors. Now that the rest of the army is super fast, you're okay to play cautious with these melee warriors. Move them up the board. Stay safe from enemy firepower that can just obliterate these things. And then, in turn 4 or 5, when your opponent's got that remaining big tanky thing you got to kill, melee warriors almost always in the detachment can deal with it. So, really nice list. I like to see the evolution of what we've got here. I'm sure we'll start to see more of this now that the Tyranid Hyper-Adaptive Ravener set is coming out as a standalone kit here in just a matter of weeks. So congratulations again to Sebastian, and let's move on to the next list. And that is Invasion Fleet. We have 2 Invasion Fleet lists for you guys today. This first one is Guilliamain, Razorix, Butch Kremer. Quite a name there. Hopefully I got it somewhat close. Third at the Belgian Open. He had 64 players at this event, and he went 5-1. He played against Death Guard, lost to Sisters of Battle, won against Chaos Demons, Gene Stealer Cult, Chaos Knights, and Eldar. Nice slate of opponents there. His list was a Broodlord. He had a Hive Tyrant with the perfectly adapted enhancement, probably just because he had a few points left over, and a unit of hyper-adapted Raveners. In the battle line, we've got 2 units of 10 Hormagaunts and a unit of 10 Termagants. The rest of the list, a little interesting here. We've got 2 individual biovores. I am interested. This isn't the first time we've seen 2 individual biovores. Again, remember, only one can spawn in a spore mine per turn. But, you know, they both can screen out one set on each edge of the board. One spawns a spore mine, maybe one does an action, whatever the case is. Maybe one just fires indirect, but he has the option. And they're a decent, durable little 50-point model if you do need to move them up the board or be, a little bit more mobile with one of them. So it's an interesting include. He also, for the rest of the list, has 3 exocrines because they're fantastic in Invasion Fleet, access to that sustain or lethals. A unit of 10 Gene Stealers to go with the Broodlord. A Lictor, 5 Raveners to go with the Hyper Adaptive Raveners, and 2 Tyrannofexes with Rupture Cannons. So this list is a pretty common build we've seen with Invasion Fleet, where it is a bunch of big gun bugs supported by the Hive Tyrant, and the main goal for these is to do that damage turns 1, 2, 3 as much as possible, and then, in turn 3 or 4, that's when the Hyper Adaptive Raveners and the Gene Stealers will come in and do the damage. But really, this is a shooting army first. Rely on those guns to do the damage, and then clean up what you need to in the fight phase later on in the game. So again, great list. Love to see the inclusion of Hyper Adaptive Raveners. Hopefully GW doesn't nerf them because they are in every tier list, but I would argue it's just a unit Tyranids have been desperately missing. So that's the list. Congratulations, and let's move on to the next one. All right, for our second list in Invasion Fleet, we have Adam Spicer here. He went 3rd at the Lock and Load GT. 36 players at this event, and his result was 4-1. He played against Space Wolves, and he lost his first round, but they came back against Chaos Knights, Tau, Orc, and Death Guard. In his list, he had 2 Broodlords, a Hive Tyrant with Perfectly Adapted, and Hyper Adapted Raveners. The battle line, he had 10 Gargoyles and 10 Hormagaunts, and the rest of the list, he had a Biovore, 2 Exocrine, 2 groups of 10 Gene Stealers, 2 Neurolictors, a Ravener, and 2 Tyrannofexes with the Rupture Cannon. Very nice list. It's nice to see Gene Stealers. They seem to be coming back a bit. There felt like there was a time there for almost maybe a year where outside of Vanguard Onslaught, you really didn't see Gene Stealers. You barely saw them in Invasion Fleet. But now they're starting to come back, and it's good because Gene Stealers are awesome. Again, this list plays a lot like the last one we just touched on, which was the big gun bugs. They do the bulk of the damage. In this case, he's leaning a little bit more into melee with 2 units of Gene Stealers and a unit of Hyper Adaptive Raveners, rather than just 1 unit of Gene Stealers. So again, same good play style. Rely on the big gun bugs to do the damage first, and then come close in for the kill with all of those Gene Stealers. Great list. Congratulations on your result, and let's move on to the next one. We will then move into Subterranean Assault. This is Caillou Orellin. He went 3rd at the Huxley's Open 2025. There were 75 players at this event, and his result was 5-1. He played against Space Wolves, Death Guard, Emperor's Children, lost against Necrons, and then played Orcs and Space Wolves again in the last round. His list consisted of a Hyper Adaptive Ravener squad with the Vanguard Intellect enhancement. He had the Swarm Lord and a Trigon with the Trigon Prime enhancement because you really need that one in this detachment. It's too good not to. Swarm Lord is an interesting include in this list, and it's pretty common we've been seeing with Subterranean Assault. This is, at least in the early phases of the game, a pretty CP-hungry detachment, and with the whole method of your units are deep striking all over the board, you're not going to reliably have a Hive Tyrant near them to use the free strat every turn. So having Swarmlord just chill in your back line and then eventually work his way through the tunnels to the front line is a great way to keep that CP up when you need to. In the battle line, we've just got 2 units of 10 Gargoyles, which are good in this detachment again because you can deep strike 6 inches away. You can do your whole shoot and then move, and you move 6 inches. And now you're realistically 1 inch away from the enemy, making it really easy to steal objectives from an opponent that way. The rest of the list has got a Biovore, 3 Exocrines to lay down some firepower, 3 Lictors, which are very important in this list, a Maleceptor for something bulky in the midfield, 2 units of Raveners, and a Tyranofex with a Rupture Cannon. Again, you guys have seen a pattern with all of these lists except for Vanguard Onslaught. Exocrines and Tyranofexes, even with their points bumps they've received, they're still the backbone of a lot of Tyranid forces. They provide that much needed firepower that a lot of our other bugs don't really do for us at range. So you like to see it. Not a ton in terms of the Ravener stuff, but he's really relying on the Hyper-Adaptive Raveners and the regular Raveners and the Trigon to just put up a few tunnels to allow those Exocrines and Tyranofexes to move around. Depending on the opponent, maybe he walks the Maleceptor up to the middle, or he just uses a tunnel to drop him in the middle. I'm guessing that's where it's placed. And yeah, it's more of shoot the opponent a bunch and then go in with a few melee monsters, and then allow the lictors just to be lictors around the field. So nice list. Congratulations on the result. And we will move on to our second Subterranean Assault list, which is a wacky one. So we've got Dan Morris here. He went second at the Valley of the Moon GT, 32 players, and he went 4-1-0. So he had a draw in here. He played against Grey Knights, then Chaos Knights again, and drew Death Guard, and then Space Wolves. I said this list was wacky, and here you go. So we got a Trigon with the Trigon Prime Enhancement, because you have to, and a Winged Hive Tyrant as the Warlord. Battleline, 2 units of 10 Gargoyles for the reasons we just said. They are great in this detachment for stealing objectives, even more than they already were. And the rest of the list, you had a Biovore, a Lictor, 2 Maleceptors, 3 Norn Emissaries, a Ravener squad, and a Trigon. So he's got 3 units to deliver tunnels, but really his list is about, I'm going to put my bugs where I want to, and he's not really playing on the benefit of the detachment with the whole tunneling part. Sure, that'll help him here and there, especially with, the Gargoyles and the Trigon Prime and stuff. But really, here's a bunch of super durable bugs that have a strat where they can heal, or at least one of them can heal every turn if it's near the tunnel, and they all reroll 1s to hit in shooting and melee. And for these units, that's really good, especially the Norns. You'll probably pop them all on I'm guessing he probably puts 2 Norns on the center objective and 1 on the other objective, and then he's got the Maleceptors. At least 1 goes to the center as well. Maybe 1 goes on the other flank. I'm not entirely sure how he would play it. Depending on my opponent, I would either play super aggressive and attack his expansion objective, or maybe I just play a little bit more reserved with my units and not do that. But again, depends on the opponent. With Chaos Knights and Grey Knights, he probably had to play, with Chaos Knights, he probably did play a bit more reserved because you did have to watch out for the damage those things can do. But all the other armies are pretty mobile, so maybe he did stay a bit more reserved in that regard too. Either way, wacky list. I think this is the first time in a while we've seen Triple Norn do decently well on the channel, so I like to see it. Always fun to see Norns do well, and congratulations on the results. And finally, we have Caillou Orellin, and no, this is not a typo. This is his second appearance on this list this month, and he's been on this series many times, I think. He played Assimilation Swarm again in another GT. I wish I had the time in my life to play as many GTs as you, because it sounds fun. I can only reliably get to 1 GT a quarter, really, but you being able to do 2 in a month is fun. He went 7th at the Krefeld Major 2025, 150 players at this one, 4-1, playing my beloved Assimilation Swarm. He went up against World Eaters, Emperor's Children, Grey Knights, Blood Angels he lost to, and then Grey Knights again. So very marine body heavy list, or list of opponents, which is what Assimilation really does love to deal with. First he had a Hive Tyrant, and then he had Hyper Adaptive Raveners with Instinctive Defense. Now, I've used this on the channel since Hyper Adaptive Raveners came out. If you guys missed it and you don't know what this insane combination is, so Instinctive Defense allows you to Heroic Intervene and Fight First if you are within 6 inches of a Harvester unit. Now, the way I've been playing it is that the Hyper Adaptive Raveners also let you Rapid Ingress for free. So I have been keeping them off the table and then putting a unit like a Psychophage kind of forward and having my opponent charge it. And when I do that, you can rapid ingress your Ravener unit. You know, it has to be 9 inches away from your opponent, but hopefully that's doable while still being within 6 inches of the harvester unit. Then you hope your opponent charges you and charges within that 6-inch range. Then you get to heroic intervene for free, and then you get to fight first, and you pretty much obliterate a good chunk of the unit, if not all of the unit that made that charge. Plus, then it is your turn after that fight phase in terms of turn order, meaning those Raveners, you know, maybe they lost a few or something, they'll get to heal up, and if they're out of combat, go kill something else free of charge pretty much. So it's a very powerful combo. I'm even thinking about trying 2 units of hyper adaptive Raveners, one to pull off that kind of shenanigan and one to stay on the board. Maybe go for the regenerating monstrosity enhancement to bring back 2 Raveners a turn. Could be pretty cool, but still very, very powerful and something I like to see other people trying as well. Small tangent there, but the rest of the list is 10 units of 10 Termagants in the battle line, and then he had a Biovore, 2 Exocrine, 2 Haruspex, 1 unit of 6 Hive Guard, 3 Psychophages, 2 units of 3 Pyrovores, a unit of 2 Pyrovores, some Raveners to go with the hyper adaptive, and a unit of Venom Thropes. Now, typically, I stay away from the Venom Thropes in a lot of cases. However, with Assimilation Swarm being a more defensive unit and having a ton of Pyrovores and a unit of Hive Guard, they're actually not a bad include. They really buff that durability of those units. Giving Pyrovores stealth and cover and giving Hive Guard stealth and cover really buffs an already durable unit. Plus, again, remember, you can respawn those units. So you've got 6, 7, 8 heals a turn, and that's plenty of heals to allow you to just keep moving up or respawning the units you need to. The Hive Guard are interesting. I'd be curious if you are watching, your opinions if you would take the Hive Guard again. I know everyone's been using them in Subterranean Assault because they have access to sustain hits and ignore cover, which really helps out their damage, and reroll ones, which really helps out their damage output. But in Assimilation Swarm, they don't get any of that. They get a little bit of the healing buff, but plopping them on an objective, being able to overwatch something on 4s, it's more of just a deterrence. Do you want to deal with this objective? Put it on your expansion objective so your opponent's not immediately threatening it. And it's like, well, I could kill them, but then I have to face a potentially nasty overwatch. And if I don't kill them in shooting, because they're going to be durable with the Venom Throat buff, they're going to just keep coming back. You know, it is an interesting option. And then, of course, if something does charge them, you've got the Raveners or maybe Haruspex or Psychophage to help defend them in melee. So I do like the include. Also, I'm curious, I didn't see for sure if it was shock cannons or impaler cannons. I'm going to assume shock cannons, but I would not be surprised if it also was impaler cannons. Given you have a Hive Tyrant, you could be benefiting from some lethal hits there as well. So congratulations on the result. Very interesting list, and kind of got me itching to play my Assimilation Swarm a little bit more too, because I do miss the fun play style of it. So that's what we got in today's video. We have the 6 lists here. Again, if you were someone whose list was mentioned in this video, feel free to add some color commentary down in the comments down below. I can give my best opinion of how I would play these lists as someone who has played hundreds of games of Tyranids in 10th edition, but I am not the pilot, and I did not play the game, so I can't say everything. So again, thank you guys for watching. Congratulations again to all the results we've had in today's video. Thank you, members, for supporting us. Check out the links down below in the description, and we'll see you next time here on Maelstrom Gaming Studios.